Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Midlands online worship service. I'm Connie Ofori-Dankwa, worship associate for this morning's service. If you haven't already, please type into the chat box who you are and who you have brought with you today. Unitarian Universalism is a welcoming and inclusive religion. It encourages us to keep open hearts and minds because our own experience, conscience, and reason are the final authorities in religion. It affirms the inherent worth and dignity of every person and that we are all connected to each other and the earth. If you are visiting us today, a special welcome to you. We appreciate you spending some of your Sunday morning with us. If you have any questions, please let us know in the chat box by phone or through our Facebook page. If you've been attending for some time and have come to feel that this is your spiritual home and you are considering becoming a member of the fellowship, please contact our minister, Eric Severson, or a member of the welcome team. Let us know of your interest in the chat box. If you have a chalice or candle at home and would like to join in our chalice lighting remotely, now would be a good time to get that ready. We will be including joys and sorrows this morning as we normally do during the service. We will want to find the participant icon to take part in that. And we now have an online donation option which we will use after the service. Online religious education sessions will be today and future Sundays at 1 p.m. Parents and children are invited. Email dreheather@uufom.org for the Zoom invitation, or if you have children or grandchildren who would like to participate. Next week's service will be all in. In order to be just, liberation must be collective. So, come rain or shine, we're all in this together. How do we make the grass seem greener on both sides of the fence? Our minister, Eric Severson, holds virtual tea sessions via Zoom on Tuesdays at 10 a.m., Thursdays at 2 p.m., and Saturdays at 7 p.m. To connect with him, please see the newsletter or Facebook for links. If you are hosting virtual meetings, please add them to the fellowship's calendar. Email office@uufom.org with your meeting name, date, time, and Zoom link. Check your email on Tuesdays and Saturdays for our Candle Flame newsletter. Email office@uufom.org if you have a submission for the newsletter. Our Serendipity auction will be held online this year on Saturday, May 9th at 6 p.m. Don't be late. The theme this year is Wonderland Tea Party. Please see the newsletter or Facebook for more information. If you have a candle or chalice at home and would like to light it now, please do so. Our chalice lighting words today are titled, Like the First Hint of Green by Jennifer McLaughlin. Please join me in reading the words on your screen on mute. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil, let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays, and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space.
Thank you, Connie. Our opening words today are by Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Albert C. Arcia. Whatever the need that brings you to this special place and hour, know most surely that it is best served through eager receptivity of mind and heart. If it be to take a firmer step toward the lifting horizon of high thought, if it be a desire to give assistance to feelings that should range and are true, if it be to challenge the way of your life, if it be to find your place as part of a caring and serving community, then let your mind consider well what is here thoughtfully given. Then let your heart accept freely what is here lovingly shared. With your mics muted, please join Melanie Willison in singing our opening hymn, the African American spiritual, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning." You are welcome to dance and clap as the Spirit moves you as well.
Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Good morning. So today's story is from Buddha at Bedtime, and it's a story called The Quails and the Hunter by Dharmachari Nagaraja. Relax and be very still and listen. Listen carefully to this tale about a flock of quails who live happily in the leafy hedgerows and woods. That is until one day when a hunter came along. Do you want to know what happened? Let's see if we can find out. So now the hunter was a very clever man who made his living from catching quails. He would hide behind a hedgerow, imitate the quail's call, and they would answer him. And then when a good number of birds had gathered nearby, he would throw the net over them and catch them. And then he would take some home to his wife to cook for dinner and sell the rest at the market for a good price. The quails were led by a wise old bird called Tut-Tut, who decided something had to be done about this hunter. He realized that to protect his flock, he would have to outsmart the hunter. So he devised a plan. One morning, he called the quails together and said, "Every day the hunter lures more of us into his trap. Soon none of us will be left. We must do something to protect ourselves. I have a plan. If we work together, we can escape him and his wicked net. And the next time the hunter catches any of us, we must fly up together from the ground. And when I give the call, we'll all do this together. And that way we'll be able to lift the net up and fly away. But for this plan to work, we must cooperate." Everybody agreed that this was a great plan. So we need to go back one slide because this is what's about to happen. The hunter came and he's ready, and he threw his net on the birds. The birds were ready. And as soon as Tut Tut signaled, they all flapped their wings as hard as they could, and they froze and they flew into the air. The plan had worked. Their combined strength had lifted the net, which they then dropped in a large prickly thorn bush. The hunter didn't catch one quail that day. Each time he tried to capture the birds, they escaped and ended up spending hours getting scratched and prickled while retrieving his net. Finally went home. His wife was furious to see him empty-handed. "Where's the quails for dinner? What will we eat?" "Those birds outwitted me today. They work together as a team," he cried angrily, "but they won't cooperate with each other for long. Those quarrelsome creatures, they'll soon fall out, and then they won't be able to lift the net anymore. That's when I'll catch them." And sure enough, one day soon after, one of the quails was sat on his neighbor's head, and then there was a big squabble over it. And Tut Tut said, "No, please stay. No, let's not argue. Let's settle this." And they wouldn't listen. So Tut Tut realized there was a problem because he could see the hunter over the hedgerow getting ready to pounce. They couldn't work together. He had to get them to escape before he cast a net. So he told the flock, fly away at once." And most of them rose immediately and flew away. But the quarrelsome quails were left behind and promptly caught. Tut Tut's flock continued to work as a team, outwitting the hunter so often that eventually he gave up trying to catch them. That's the end of our story, but there's a little lesson that comes with this story. We can be tempted to go our own way rather than to work together with others. A wise person knows that they can achieve much more as part of a team than on their own.
I invite you now to center yourselves and enter into a time of reflection, meditation, or prayer. Today's prayer is by author and retired Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Dr. George Kimmich Beach. Giver of freedom and being, thou who touches our lives in unforeseen ways, who unsettles our ease and upsets our self-satisfactions. We wait in these moments of stillness to let the hidden processes of healing and growth do their silent work with us, and to let the quiet work of reconciliation be renewed among us. Because we know that the ultimate issues of life, healing and growth, reconciliation and renewal cannot be forced, neither by excess activity nor by tumult of words, we seek out this stillness. We seek the quiet, the resting place of our restless hearts. Because we live with mystery, we trust that which is deeper than we know, which touches our hearts, which steadies us and rekindles our spirits, which finally in faith may be named the love that has laid hold upon us and will not let us go. Amen.
Our reading today is excerpts from a piece called For the Sake of the Common Good by Erica A. Hewitt and Becky Brooks. Although the German word Giftschrank sounds like a quirky holiday tradition. The term is really a combination of the words poison and cabinet. The term once referred to literal pharmaceutical cabinets in which chemicals were locked safely away, evolving to describe any container in which dangerous items are sealed to protect the common good. Giftschrank has come to refer to the conceptual containers, often special rooms or vaults, used by libraries, museums, and government agencies as repositories for material that's considered harmful or sensitive. A Giftschrank is intended to contain, to control access for the sake of the common good. The stashing away of questionable writing or art isn't an attempt at secrecy, nor is it the same thing as censorship. There are still ways to access the metaphorical poison in the cabinet. Whereas the outright banning of material is a surefire way to trigger our human craving for the forbidden and our proclivity to seek it out. The Giftschrank is like a building whose front door is locked, but whose side door is open to those with the password. Both in the United States and in our Unitarian Universalist congregations, we're primed to speak of freedom and to reflexively protect our right to exercise free speech. We're enamored of freedom as concept and practice, and chafe at its narrowing. When we study history, however, we learn that freedom is rarely freedom for all, and is more often freedom for some at the expense of others. If our congregations value interdependence, we must also acknowledge the ripple effects that can wreak unintended consequences on the innocent. At times, we're called to surrender some of our freedom in order to serve the whole. How might members of our community be harmed if we give freedom a greater value than responsibility?
Thank you, Connie. Let's share now in an interlude called Fun at Home by Aram Khachaturian, played for us today by Melanie Willison. Thank you, Melanie. Oh, the monotony, the stuffy air, the annoying behaviors of our companions. The same routine day after day. If only we could escape these confines. Indulge with me, if you will, on a journey of the mind to a day in the distant or not so distant future, when assurances have been given, when testing for the virus has expanded. If not the all clear, then a preliminary partially clear has been sounded. The governor has relaxed restrictions, reinstated some personal freedoms, and allowed certain social activities. In-person worship and other gatherings have resumed at the fellowship, though perhaps in altered form. You are free to move about with minor limitations. What do you do? Whatever that image is that comes to mind, it need not be only fantasy. It is one of innumerable potentials for which you might plan. Liberation requires hope, determination, and a plan. We can't predict the future, but we can begin planning our eventual release from self-isolation. In doing research for today, I watched the 1963 film, The Great Escape, which may be familiar to many of you. It's about American soldiers plotting and carrying out escapes from a Nazi prisoner of war camp. In this story, about 25 actually made it to freedom. The bulk of the remaining 50 were killed. But the prisoners' secondary goal was to keep Nazi troops busy, to prevent them from joining the front lines and thereby saving more lives. The sobering truth I came away with was that even after months and years of planning and preparing, we still may not succeed. Or we may, but in ways we did not anticipate. Like those American soldiers, like the quails in our story today, we turn to our leaders in difficult times. At their best, our leaders keep the big picture in mind and help us work together to find solutions, sometimes very clever solutions to our problems. Granted, some leaders are more adept at this than others. You may or may not choose to call me Tut-Tut. Unitarian Universalists, by and large, are rationalists. We trust in the scientific method and in scientific authority. My guess is that with a few exceptions, we trust in Dr. Anthony Fauci more than we do in many elected leaders. When scientists, doctors, and our own governor tell us that staying home will slow the spread of COVID-19, will save lives, and will reduce the burden on our medical systems and professionals, we tend to accept that authority. Then there are people who don't, for whatever reason. People like those who protested in Lansing last Wednesday. Militant opportunists, right-wing extremists, people who without face masks and without any care about social distancing, needlessly put their own health at risk and endangered everyone by knowingly or unknowingly spreading the virus. At the very least, they delayed ambulances from getting to emergency rooms. They are like children who didn't grasp the kindergarten concept that the longer you don't pay attention and continue to monkey around, the longer the whole class has to wait to go to recess. And their activities appear to have support from the White House. Our president tweeted on Friday, "Liberate Michigan." The world has never seen this virus, nor a pandemic like this in a very long time. More than 160,000 have died worldwide so far, with nearly 40,000 in the United States as of this morning. Some of us have friends or acquaintances who have died. It's becoming personal. Let us honor the dead by doing what we can to save other lives. For the common good, let us limit contact and stay home. In our reading today, Erica Hewitt and Becky Brooks wrote that like a building whose front door is locked, but whose side door is open to those with a password, a gift schrank is intended to contain, to control access for the sake of the common good. We are very much like the Lansing protesters in some ways. There is some common ground. We too chafe at freedom's narrowing and are primed. Hewitt and Brooks wrote to reflexively protect our rights. Yet we know that freedom is rarely freedom for all and is more often freedom for some at the expense of others. We understand that ripple effects can wreak unintended consequences on the innocent, such as spreading disease. I would argue that the protests reveal a fundamental insecurity and distrust of government. Protesters may be operating consciously or subconsciously from assumptions and beliefs born of our colonialist and white supremacist social structures. Those of us gathered today may feel relatively more secure for a variety of reasons. Perhaps our privileges, our support of diversity, or our values of equity and compassion. We Unitarian Universalists tend to consider and discuss things, sometimes to death, rather than act impulsively. We accept that we sometimes are called to surrender some of our freedom in order to serve the whole. We gather in religious community to wrestle with the balance between freedom and responsibility. We ask ourselves the question, if we value one more than the other, freedom or responsibility, how might members of our communities be harmed? In this time of voluntary seclusion in which our homes have become gift schranks, I invite you to visualize your eventual escape. But beyond that, I invite you to consider escape as a synonym for emergence. Whatever your spiritual practice may be, I encourage you to consider how you might thoughtfully and responsibly break whatever chains may be holding you. How might you emerge from the current restrictions, and perhaps from restrictions of your own making? Each of us is on a spiritual journey of growth and learning. I invite you to reflect on how our privileges affect our opportunities and our choices. Remember that our social systems are not set up to allow freedom equitably to all, and that our faith tradition calls us to act for justice. Ask yourself how people might be harmed by your choices. In what ways do you or might you balance your freedoms and your responsibilities? In coming days, may we use the power we have to enliven and transform the monotony. May we let the hidden processes of healing and growth, reconciliation and renewal do their silent work within us. As we plot our great escape, may we awake more often with our minds stayed on freedom, our own and others. May we trust not only the authorities of science and reason, but that which is deeper than we know, which touches our hearts, steadies us, and will not let us go. May we trust in that love that has laid hold upon us and will not let us go. May we, like that first hint of green, be renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays, and ready to emerge with a new energy. Blessed be and amen.
We affirm the work of this fellowship and its mission through our financial contributions, as well as through our participation as we think freely, live ethically, and grow spiritually. Let us give as generously as we can, and may what we give bring us joy. Please take this time to write a check if you wish, and mail it to the fellowship at 6220 Jefferson Avenue, Midland, Michigan, 48640. To donate online, please stay after the service for instructions. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, Melanie. Now, with your mics muted, please join Melanie in singing our closing hymn, I Wish I Knew How.
Mute. Okay.
Do we have the words on screen for everybody? That would be lovely.
I know the first verse.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say 'em loud, say 'em clean, for the whole world to hear. Say 'em loud, say 'em clean, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. I will remove all the bars that still keep me apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. I wish I could give all the love I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to give. I wish I could do all the things I could do. Then I'm way overdue. I'd be starting anew, though I'm way overdue. I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found look down at the sea, then I'd sing, 'cause I'd know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing, 'cause I'd know how it feels to be free.
Thank you, Melanie. Today's closing words are by the mid-20th century Unitarian minister, Rhys Williams. Remembering our spiritual, courageous ancestors who forsook oppression with security to gain freedom with opportunity, may we go forth to master ourselves by accepting duty with responsibility, by showing balance in our judgments, and by having breadth of vision in our deliberations. May we be exemplars of that spirit, moving forward with conviction and commitment, with unity and without uniformity, with brotherhood and sisterhood to serve the truth that sets us free. Amen. Thank you to everyone who helped make this service possible today, and thank you to you all for joining us today. If you can stay to chat, great. If you need to go, we will understand. Whatever you may encounter in the coming week, please know that the love of this community goes with you. Until we're together again, many blessings.